coming. Thank you, guys. For more than 5 years, the Rock Island Public Library has been searching for a replacement for the outgrown 3031 library. We've done building studies, community surveys, we've done stakeholder studies, public forums, and feasibility studies to find the right mixture of what our community wants and what we can afford to offer. Results have ranged from creating a $30 million downtown library expansion to a completely new building in the center of town, site unknown, and then a hybrid of both of these options. The last time I appeared before you about our project, actually, most of you weren't at that. You weren't on the council at that time, but we were looking at a $12 million capital campaign that would modernize and shrink the downtown library's footprint and allow us to purchase the Tri-City Jewish Center to renovate it as a large central library. In that plan, the finances seemed to be the largest stumbling block because that feasibility study required at least a third of the dollars from city capital improvement funds, which were not available at the time. However, that didn't stop us. We continued to persevere and to look into other things. Mike Winnecamp and his staff had also been eyeballing the Tri-City Jewish Center, and for a reason he will touch on in a moment. We got into contact about our separate projects and found that if we worked together on one project for the betterment of Rock Island, we would realize 3 important results. Repurposing and sharing a building would make for efficient operations. A central or midtown Rock Island location put us in a geographically desired spot, and it would be collaboration like no other in the Quad City area, including an overlap of clientele, all located in a campus park-like setting. So the handout that we provided for this study session is the case document that our Library Foundation and Two Rivers YMCA are using for the feasibility study that's happening right now. They're midway through that study, and we do hope to have results by the late December. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mike, and he can fill you in on the YMCA's mission and his strategic plan. I can hand those out, sure.
Well, good evening, and thank you for inviting me. As Angela mentioned, we originally came together, I think, about a year and a half ago. The Y had been invited to look at the Jewish Center property as a potential location for a physical facility for the Y. As you see in the casebook that you're getting handed out, we've been offering a lot of social programs, youth programs primarily in Rock Island for quite some time, and this would be a central location that we feel would give us the ability to serve all of Rock Island. Our 3 core pillars are youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility. We currently have a location at the Martin Luther King Center, which is kind of a program administration building or office that kind of centralizes our youth programs that take place at all of the elementary schools, or nearly all the elementary schools, both junior highs, and then of course at Rocky. So this location for us is really based upon the outcomes of a market study that we did with the Scott County Y back in 2017, and that study was funded by the John Deere Foundation and told us that we could serve with health and well-being and family-related programming about another 2,500 people in this community with a center of this magnitude. So that's kind of how we came to the table. We again saw the value of a collaboration because we did not need a facility the complete size of the Jewish Center, and so when we were introduced to Angela and we started to talk about facility-related needs and the ability for those to really give us the tools that we need to create the impact that we want to create, the facility size was a perfect fit for both of us. So we'll, I think if you go to the next page, this talks a little bit more about the library, but in a moment I'll talk a little bit more about specifically what it is that we're going to address from the Y standpoint within the facility.
So our mission is simple, and I have been here to tell you about our strategic plan, but the library makes our community stronger by connecting people to resources, services, events, and each other. And since opening our doors in 1872, we have continually evolved to serve our public, remaining viable throughout time. By building community connections, from providing education and lifelong learning, we help our city create livable neighborhoods by providing vital and essential services to our residents. This project is another groundbreaking initiative to help make our community a great place to live. And in your packet, when you read through that, it's just a summary of our strategic plan, but at that, when we were going through that planning process with our community sessions, what they did, say multiple times, we really want a midtown centrally located library, knowing that one of the things in this plan is to close our 3031 branch. So when this opportunity came up, it was like it was meant to be. So why are we collaborating? Well, the simple answer is that we are stronger together. Our organizations have both been in existence for well over 100 years, both focusing on youth, family, and community development. And these topics are as crucial now as they have ever been. As I mentioned in my introduction, there are three main reasons we are hoping to collaborate. One, the location of the Tri-City Jewish Center is extremely important to the library because it puts nearly all Rock Island residents within 3 miles of library service. The location for the YMCA is ideal because of the existing gymnasium and kitchen in the Jewish Center that will help meet the needs of the community, as well as the physical location of the building, which Mike will get into in a few minutes. Second, opportunity. Well, opportunities like this don't come along very often. Our organizations would be repurposing a building that is, quite frankly, too big for either of us individually. Sharing the building brings about efficiencies that include operational cost savings, dual-purpose spaces, and a one-stop location for children, teens, and adults to improve mind and body. And finally, compatibility. Our organizations are similar, but we're different. There's an overlap of potential users with the hope of visitors using both sides of the building. The library and Two Rivers YMCA serve essential human needs in the community, and the joint facility makes our community stronger by expanding access and promoting lifelong learning. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike, and he'll discuss the health and well-being aspects, as well as a description of the project, including the feasibility study and the next steps.
Thank you, Angela. On the page before, it talked a little bit about community as well, but when you look at access to health and well-being within the Quad City area, we know that there's a void from what the Y provides within the Rock Island community. When you look at health and well-being, some of the more prominent programs that we offer include a cancer survivor program called Livestrong, a cardiac rehab program called Reclaim. We have a diabetes prevention program, a Parkinson's-specific program. We also do a lot of community outreach and community education. We have a program called Activate Rock Island that the city has some involvement in that is really intended to be kind of a networking a group and meets regularly at the Martin Luther King Center. As a matter of fact, tonight you'll be hearing about a community garden that we, with our kids in our mentoring programs, took care of this summer just outside the King Center. But for us, health and well-being is more than just fitness. Fitness is certainly a part of that, but it's more than that for us. And so when you look at the programming and the national reputation and research evidence-based programs that YMCA's are known for, that's what we more specifically aim to to offer through that center. We currently have about 400 families or households that drive over to one of our 2 facilities in Moline. We anticipate that the majority, if not all of those, will transfer their usage to Rock Island. We also know that the downtown Davenport Y is currently breaking ground and starting to build a new facility, and so that was taken into consideration within this study as well. Between the opportunities that exist from an aquatic standpoint, with otherwise and also with RIFAC and other facilities, we don't see the need for the aquatic facility right up front, although the Y does offer a lot of very specialized aquatic exercise and wellness programs as well. But probably one of the most important and unique amenities of this building that really attracted us was the contemporary commercial kitchen within the Jewish Center, and probably one of the most contemporary commercial kitchens in a social service building on this side of the river. And the reason that's important to us is because about 2 years ago, we took over the administrative aspect of what used to be the Quad City Area Children's Food Program. And we did so in partnership with all of the other youth-serving organizations, school districts, and Riverbend Food Bank, and several foundations as we began to administer that. And we've been doing it for about 1.5 years now. Currently, we serve about 1,500 meals or snacks a day to roughly 35 youth-serving after-school organizations and programs throughout Rock Island County on a daily basis. During the summer months, we're upwards of 2,500. And we do that out of 3 small kitchens, one at the King Center, one at the Boys and Girls Club in Moline, and one at the Moline YMCA. And we've found that we just don't have the capacity to continue to bring on new programs. And so the Illinois State Board of Education, as they certify program sites for those specific meals and snacks, looks to have as few of administrative agents to offer that program as possible. From an auditing standpoint and so on, I'm sure you all can appreciate that it's not necessarily a small task to take that on. And so this would give us the opportunity to centralize the Nourish storage needs as well as the food preparation needs. And then we could continue to use the 3 satellite locations for family education and community education and tie in those community gardens that I talked about earlier. So from that standpoint for us, that was one of the really unique things that we were looking for, while at the same time, based on all of our strategic planning, we were looking for a location to kind of centralize other health and well-being programs in Rock Island. And the Tri-City Jewish Center, combined with its location being central to the community, just happened to be a perfect match. And like I said, it complemented the size of a facility that we needed as well as that of the library. So you probably all have seen or are aware, obviously, of where the location is. There is a Hebrew cemetery behind the location that would remain governed and run by the Hebrew Cemetery Association. We have agreed with the Tri-City Jewish Center kind of in principle on a purchase acquisition price. We have our attorney and their attorney going back and forth with some of the language within a conditional purchase agreement that would allow us to kind of put a hold on that property acquisition until the feasibility study itself is complete. This summer, we sent our proposal into the Quad City Contributors Council. We had very positive feedback from them coming out of that. However, there were 2 things that they wanted to see firmly in writing. One was the purchase agreement itself, and the other was the results of a fundraising study that would tell us how much community support we could raise to do this project. You can see the grand total is $7.26 million. We actually have 3 different scopes of work that 3 different concepts that we came up with that we feel would allow us to meet the most basic needs on the lowest level, which is a little less than 7.26, all the way up to the highest needs, which would be more than 7.26, and 7.26 was kind of our mid-scope. The YMCA nationally has a property development and architectural company that will come in and as part of our affiliation with YMCA the USA, will provide us the pre-construction sequence of events that we need to go through without any additional cost to those. We did that. The pictures that you see are actually pictures of other YMCA facilities across the country, but it gives you a good vision as to what the interior of that building would be transformed to. And they also gave us a great example of one of these partnerships that has worked really well, which is in San Antonio, Texas, where the city of San Antonio and the YMCA acquired a former supermarket building and transformed it into a library branch as well as a YMCA facility as well. So we're currently in the feasibility study aspect of what we're doing. We expect to have those results back by the end of this year or January 1st. And at that point, we'll know whether or not there's community support interest and if we can raise the money to make this happen. But we've been approaching this all along as if, we're looking at private funding to underwrite the cost of transforming and acquiring that building. We certainly hope that the feasibility study will come back and show the support that is there to make that happen. And if that's the case, then, obviously it makes the residents of the community much more comfortable because they don't have to worry about footing the bill for the capital investment itself.
So with that, I think I'll just ask if there are any questions because there probably are. I'd be glad to answer them.
I have a question, Angela.
Yes.
Sounds like a wonderful plan, and I'm hoping that it all falls into place.
Thank you.
What are your plans for the downtown main library building, the building?
Oh, well, that'll stay. It's our main library. It has our holdings. It's 30,000+ square feet. And if you probably weren't on council back when we did our building program study, the suggestion was for our municipal library in the Milan Blackhawk Library District with a combined population of near 50,000 people that we would want between 50 and 55,000 square feet of library. So this would be, this branch would be 3 times larger than our 3031 library. And so that would get us to the square footage that was recommended by our person who did the study.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would just like to echo, I've said it before, but representing where the downtown library is, I have gotten a number of phone calls and contacts from my constituents concerned about the future of the downtown library. And I've assured them that, with our energy performance contract, we're looking at actually investing in the downtown building,
Right.
updating the HVAC equipment and things like that. And so I'm trying to do my part to assure my constituents that we're not abandoning the downtown library, and I appreciate your commitment to the downtown library.
Yep.
So I do have a question about the specifics. Do I understand it correctly that the YMCA would basically own the property and that the library would lease their portion of it to them?
We would have an operational lease. So that would help us in our budgeting because we would know how much each year, what it was going to cost us
Right.
to be in the building. That is how the other, the San Antonio Library Y combo works. And I actually just called the lady who runs that program, and she said that that was not a stumbling block, but that was the thing that had the most questions when they were doing their project. And the way they explained it was, well, if you're there a set amount of time, so say our portion is 2.5 million, if we were to keep 3031 open, not considering there are a lot of capital improvements needed there, but just for operation, that would be about 12 years. So if we could have a lease at least 12 years or more, that would be the same price as what we would be paying to keep 3031, but we would be having a much better facility. So that was really hopeful. I mean, I'm glad that she was able to say that. And then also, you explained it really well about the equity portion.
Yeah. So the why, again, with our experience and interest in kind of managing facilities like this, we felt like, and before I get into the details, the we is, we actually have a joint task force of 3 Y board members, 2 Library Foundation members, and 2 library board members as well. But we felt like it would be best suited for the Y to take on the ownership of the building. But as we go through the campaign, based on the square footage allocation, we're looking at roughly 65-35, and the Library Foundation attempting to set their targets on raising the 35, and the Y, of course, setting to raise theirs on 65. But while we know that a lot of people will give independently to one or the other, we anticipate the majority of people out there will just give to the project itself. And so internally, what we're going to do is track the designated gifts that come from that. And at the end of the campaign, we'll revisit the 65-35 to what was actually raised and if, in fact, there were designated gifts within that. And the equity within the building itself will be allocated based upon the actual dollars raised. During the lease itself, the library will not own any of the building, but what we intend to do is design a lease where at the end of the lease, there's a trigger that basically reassigns that equity out to both organizations. So if in fact one wanted to buy the other one out to occupy the whole building, or they wanted to sell the building mutually to another buyer, they would stand to continue to maintain that equity as we would sell it. So.
Nice. Well, I really I am very excited about this project. You have my full support. I appreciate the Two Rivers YMCA working with our library, and I appreciate the library and the board and the foundation back there for everything that you do. I have a question about the property firm, the development group, or whatever the right term is for the Two Rivers YMCA. I know that for a lot of my constituents, the use of Rock Island or Quad City workers and construction companies is very important. Does that firm have experience with project labor agreements?
So to kind of, I'm going to step backwards a step first. So that company really is only involved up to a certain point at which we then need to decide whether or not, they would continue to be involved, or they'll actually hand it off and transition it very smoothly to a local architect and contractor. I would anticipate that that's how that works again.
Okay.
The Y has had experience with impact agreements and other things. And so we would certainly, once we get to that point in time, hopefully the feasibility study comes back positive. We'll revisit all of that. But there is a very smooth transition point at which, that can be handed off to somebody more locally.
Sounds
The
good.
last project they did in Moline was done by Estes Construction, local. Gentleman in the audience here represents Bush Construction, which, so they would, obviously could be one of the
Yeah.
bidders on it and everything else, and so.
Yeah, I appreciate that and look forward to helping out however I can.
Well, thank you. Guess that's it.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
There's no other questions. All right, I think we have actually AJ and Liz, I think, coming up to talk about Quad City First?
Yes, yes.
Actually, I'm with,
Oh,
I'm with Dara tonight.
oh, you were Dari
He's
tonight,
on-
okay.
on our board.
I can't keep track.
Yeah. Many hats, I know the feeling.
Good evening. Thank you so much for letting me attend your meeting tonight and give you an update on Quad Cities First. And as you remember or recall, that Quad Cities First were the regional economic development arm of the Quad Cities Chamber. And you folks are a very big contributor and participant in the Quad Cities First Board. It's a public and private sector entity. So tonight, what I'd like to do is give you an update on the first year of our services agreement. As you may recall, about a year and a half ago, we were talking about putting together for the first time ever a regional services agreement between the public sector entities and us in talking about what kind of services are we going to provide, at what cost. A funding model was developed, and then also roles and responsibilities. Who's going to do what? And also it's a part of our regional agreement to kind of, we've called it like the no poaching and code of ethics. And so what I'd like to do tonight is give you an update on how it's all going. As a part of our agreement, we said we would be reporting back quarterly on our activities. What we actually did in this first year was reporting monthly, and here's a copy of, it's called our metrics, but essentially we were reviewing 44 data points and reporting to our Quad Cities First Board, and then also your economic development staff, and then also through our e-news talking about those activities for the month. But what this does is it gives you an idea of the very specific activities that we were measuring and then how we did. Going forward in this next year, we think we're probably going to cut back on some of these. It's a lot of data, but we just really wanted to make sure this first year we're measuring everything to ensure that we are doing a good job of capturing what it is we're supposed to be doing. So with that, so our purpose, Quad Cities First, our purpose is really, we're, again, the regional economic development arm, and we promote the Quad Cities region, and we also look at providing technical assistance to businesses through our existing industries. What we've been doing this first year of this 3-year service agreement is we've been spending a lot of time in building our team, and as you can see, it's an all-women economic development team, probably one of the only all-women economic development teams in the country. So we like to promote that. We don't know if that's true, but that's what we tell everybody. you know. So what we did with this first year in building the team, we've tried a few things differently. What is that next generation of economic development? For example, we used to be on the road a lot. We had a guy that was probably on the road selling the Quad Cities 40 to 45 weeks out of the year. And what we decided to do is pull back a little bit and take a look at really what are our existing businesses, what do they need, and then also looking at how do you expand their supply chain and having a more focused approach to business attraction. And so we created a data analytics position, which is probably one of the first in the country, and it's Julie Jenrich. She's on the far right there. She has 18 years experience as a business data analytics person in the private industry. And so what we're hoping to do as we move forward in economic development is really be laser focused on what it is we should be doing and who should we be helping in terms of on the road. As a part of our program, too, we completed 145 business connection calls, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then we also did a really good job of enhancing our relationships with our economic development partners. For example, we see Randy once a month at our Quad City First Board meeting. We meet monthly with your economic development team to talk projects and things that are going on. And then quarterly, we have economic development partners meeting, and which Tara was at just last week, as a matter of fact. So this first year has been really building the team. And the performance, we'll talk a little bit about that here in a minute, and what we're going to be doing this next year. Just as a reminder, we do have a 6-county region, 3 counties in Iowa and 3 counties in Illinois. And again, we market this area on a national and sometimes international basis. And then our business retention or business connection program right now is really specifically Rock Island County and Scott County in Iowa. So talking a little bit about our business connection program, what we've come to learn is that 80% of economic growth or economic development really occurs within your existing industries, right? So we focus a lot of time and energy on meeting with our existing companies and finding out what it is they need to help them grow. Are there pinch points? Are there things that they need from us and the local community to help them grow, and in some cases to retain what they're doing in terms of businesses. So this year, our goal was 145 business connection calls, and I do have a handout in front of you that kind of gives an annual report. We are on a fiscal year that ends June 30th, so that annual report reflects the work that was done in our first year on a fiscal year basis. So as far as, we saw 145 businesses, and in terms of business assistance, and then referrals, and then also technical assists, we had a total of 462. And what that means is that out of those meetings, when we meet with a company, we find out something that they need, and then we do like a referral, for example, to Critical Talent Network. Maybe they need some help with financial modeling or something along, maybe manufacturing, they need some process help. So out of those meetings, we have a pretty heavy technical assist request, and that's probably the highest I've seen in a long time. In Rock Island, we had a total of 19 business connection calls of those 145, and out of that came 47 technical assists. So business expansion projects out of those meetings, and then also other means, we have 11 active economic development expansion projects. And what that means is a real live project. They're going to be expanding, and then we're going to be doing some work to help them do that. And the source of those active projects, 9 were direct, meaning those are the ones that we created through those business connection calls. And then the other 2 came out of partnerships or partners within the economic development community. So what did we hear in some of these meetings? Again, that summary gives you a good rundown of some of the things that are going on. But overall in sales and market share, we saw that market share is increasing, total sales were increasing, and that has a pretty good, strong business climate. And then in terms of product, service life cycle, and markets, overall companies are seeing their life cycles in the growing phase, which is good. And many have regional and national markets, and that there's also potential opportunity for local sales. And then overall in new products and services, there's lots of new products that have been developed in the last 3 to 5 years. And then this shows that in the next 2 years, they're going to be continuing to develop new products. So what did we hear in terms of challenges? This is a good part of our advocacy program within the chamber. So if we're hearing some things and we're hearing them over and over, we share with our advocacy team who can actually work on different things legislatively at the state or the federal levels. But overwhelmingly, workforce is an issue. It's an issue for actually on a national scale, and it's more about, in the Quad Cities, we don't have a productivity issue, it's just availability. It's meaning, how do we fill those seats? And so workforce, particularly a shortage of skilled and semi-skilled workers, such as electricians, engineers, production workers. And a big concern is training the workforce of the future. You know, how do we get some of these high school kids to get into the trades and then also into certificate programs? Another issue that we heard, and we heard this both on the Iowa side and the Illinois side, and that is the Illinois minimum wage and what those impacts could be over the next 6 years to their business model. And then a legalized cannabis, that seems to be an issue, again, both Iowa Quad Cities and Illinois Quad Cities. You know, it's a regional concern in that testing, implications on workforce, availability of workforce that can meet some of those standards, because, as I understand, one of the concerns is federal rules don't change necessarily, even if you have recreational legalized marijuana. And then federal tariffs, that was a big concern in this last year and impacting both large and small manufacturing companies. So then our next area, business attraction, and as I mentioned, we pretty much are turning things around differently in how we approach business attraction, and looking at it from a perspective of how can we help our businesses here grow and what makes sense in terms of companies that we want to attract to come here to make new investment. So again, we're no longer on the road as much, although Tammy Pecci leads our business attraction program. She spends a great deal of time making connections like with site consultants and others in industry who can help identify what it is we need to be doing here to make us more attractive for both existing business as well as our new investment that we want to attract here. And really understanding our assets, you know, what is it that we have to offer, both existing as well as other businesses throughout the land. The other thing, you know, the guy on the road, I call this our new website. We're really looking at it from the perspective of that's our guy on the road. We understand that site consultants and companies are looking at us through our website way before, obviously, we even know that they are. And so what we're doing right now is putting together some tools in our website to make that really the guy on the road, and understanding what our assets are and being able to really define the different things that we have to offer. But then also we have software and new technology that we can really track who's coming in our website. And that's more of the reactive side. But on the proactive side, we're able to take things and really identify who we should be targeting in general terms, in terms of companies and that type of thing. So our website is really dynamic. We just launched it in August, and so we're still working through some tweaks, you know, in how we're doing this, but it really is going to be our lead generator. So what in terms of metrics is fourth quarter, or annual actually, our goal was for website traffic, again, like 15,600. We really didn't know what we needed to put in terms of a measurement, but as you can see, we had over 27,000 hits on our website. And we feel that's going to be even more, and now we're going to be able to track it and define what it is they're looking at. Site selector meetings and conversations outside the region. Tammy has been meeting with site consultants all over the country. We did 73 meetings last year. Site visits, that's when companies come in here. We had 9 formal site visits here. Site visits have actually kind of changed. Back in the old days, we probably had 3 times that amount in site visits. But back in the old days, they would come here a lot more often, where now they're doing work between their websites, the website work or the research ahead of time. If they're here to visit us, that means we're probably in the top 10 in terms of a potential candidate for location. RFPs received, that means requests for proposals. Those are usually from site consultants or companies. We received 29, and we were able to respond to 25, which is a pretty good ratio. That means, or at least it means to me, that we're doing a better job of understanding what our assets are and how we can fulfill some of these requests that are coming into the region. And as far as projects go, there were 27 active projects, and 8 of the source of those 8 came directly. Those are the ones that we created ourselves. We saw 12 from the 2 states, which is really an increase. In Illinois, the last few years we saw a decline, but now we're seeing more activity again in terms of site consultants coming through the state of Illinois, and then also having formal projects. And then the other 7 came in from our economic development partners. So again, our business attraction strategy is really data-driven. We're doing a lot more digital marketing, and that's like when you're on, I always say, like, if I'm ordering shoes online, and then for the next week I get all these ads on from shoe companies. That's kind of what digital marketing is. We're getting in there and really drilling down to the people we want to target from a digital aspect. We're not doing ads like we used to as much, like in trade publications. It's really web-based. And then again, the site selector relationships, we're learning so much from these folks. Many of you participated in our site selector forum last year and really helped us understand what our assets are, and then how do we do a better job of attracting companies to our region. So in terms of performance, we had 12 successful projects this last year. And 2 of those were in business attraction, and 10 were in business expansion and retention. 9 of those projects were in Iowa. 3 were in Illinois, of which those 3 are all in Rock Island. And from that, what the commitment is, again, it's not like they're going to do this tomorrow, but usually it's a commitment over the next 3 years, committing to creating new and retained jobs of about 1,200, payroll of about $84.9 million. And then the total jobs, this is actually an economic impact model, or modeling multiplier that we have. And so total jobs, meaning those are primary jobs that are going to be created, and then these are the service and retail jobs and supplier jobs that will be created as a result of those primary jobs. And so the economic impact is a little over 3,000 total jobs with a total payroll of about $183 million. The capital investment, this means the new buildings, the new equipment, about $86 million, and the economic impact is about $998 million, and that one's a little, I'm not an economist, so I always have, kind of a hard time with that one, but pretty big impact on those 12 projects. And if we look at now, Quad Cities First has been around now for 9 years. We're in our 10th year. And we've done 79 total projects. And the direct jobs is about 5,500 total jobs. Again, that indirect, direct, and induced, a total of 11,700. Capital investment of about $1.3 billion, with a total economic impact of a little over $3 billion. I do want to mention just another award it's called the Muddy Cup. I think I mentioned this last year. And these are, it's a competition, basically, the number of economic development projects or deals that you did. And it looks at those communities along the Mississippi River, up and down. And so we compete in this, and we were ranked, our MSA, 6th in the country, because we had 17 projects, and this is actually calendar. So our fiscal year, the numbers I just showed you are 12, but this is kind of a calendar year, so it does look a little different. But 17 total projects. And then if we look at like the projects per million population, we were tied for 7th with 44. And then Clinton, Iowa, actually, in a micro, competed quite well. They were 10th. So we're kind of proud of that. We try to do well within this competition every year. So we're always asking your staff to put together good information on projects or things that you're working on so we can submit those. Now, so next year, this first quarter, and our goals for next year, again, like I mentioned, business intelligence is really going to be driving what we're doing, and we're trying to put together a pretty good program like on web analytics, as I mentioned, website content, and those kinds of things. So that's going to be a big driver of what we're doing in economic development. We have targeted industries. There are 5, and this has been the same for 10 years now. But what we're doing right now with our data analytics is drilling down into what's emerging. So if you look at, for example, targeted sectors like in advanced metals and materials, what's happening, what's going to be happening in the next 10 years. So from a data perspective, for example, robotics and manufacturing, we actually have a cluster here, including Hawk Technology and a couple of other companies in the Quad Cities. And on a national scale, we do have a pretty substantial cluster. So if we're looking at what's emerging and what should we be doing and targeting in our economy, robotics might be a good thing to look at. So what we're doing with our data is drilling down, how do we grow those specific emerging industries? So kind of wonky, I know, but that's something that we really are proud of, and we're going to be working hard in having a better understanding of what the data says and what we should be doing. Now, as far as Rock Island goes, I just want to highlight a couple of other things. Again, we work with your team. We meet with them every month. Your staff was a part of our regional site selector forum last fall. Mayor Tomes came with us to Washington, D.C. to promote the USDA project that we really wanted. We really wanted to have them move here to the island, but it didn't happen. But we had a really good process to do that, and so we thank the mayor for doing that. As a part of the grant, we have a grant that there are 3 different sources of funding that helped us with that deal closing fund, but also inventory is huge for us. You know, how do we develop sites and buildings that can help us promote our region and help identify companies that need to expand or even if they need to attract here. So we had a competition among the local communities. We had a request for proposals and to identify a potential site development planning process. So it's a planning process. And City of Rock Island won that competition and received a $50,000 grant. And so we've got a couple of years to work on that. And so, but that was something that your team put together, your staff, and did a really good job of what a site development planning process might be. And so, and also our manufacturing hub, you folks have been very involved with that in some of your companies, and so we appreciate all your help and support with that area as well. So, I think that's it. Can I answer any questions about what we're up to or what we should be doing?
Dylan, I know you always get questions.
Oh, I always got questions, yeah.
Yeah.
I first want to start by thanking QC First. I know you do a lot of good work for our region and for the city of Rock Island, and so I do appreciate what you do, and I'm happy to support Quad City First. I do have a number of constituents that are always asking me, what are these organizations that are regional doing for Rock Island, right? Our taxpayers fund in part this organization, and I think it's fair. And so I do appreciate some of the metrics that you provided here tonight with specifically out of 145 business connections, 19 were in Rock Island, right? 462 tech assistants, 47 were in Rock Island. That type of data is very helpful. I was perhaps the impetus of inquiring about the quarterly reporting, and just documents like that or information like that really help me assure my constituents that when we use their tax dollars, we're using it for organizations that benefit them. So I appreciate this information, and I look forward to, sounds like you're tweaking things and maybe getting us new and different types of information in the coming year. So I appreciate that. So I did have a question, the business connections. How does QC First determine who to reach out to? And how does that work?
Okay, so the state of Illinois has a list that they want us to meet with. The state of Iowa has a list that they want us to meet with. Our utility company has a list they want us to meet with. And then your city staff says, here's who we want you to meet with. So we take all of that, and it's a pretty big list. And so we prioritize. But really, at the end of the day, it gets down to what in Rock Island you have, like, let's say you get 19 or whatever. What companies do you want us to focus on? But a couple of caveats, and that is these are primary industries.
Yeah.
So we don't like meet with your service or retail or those kinds of companies. It's those targeted industries. But at the end of the day, you folks actually get to have a lot of say in
Yeah.
what that number, who they are when we have the number figured out.
So who has that say? I mean, I don't. Is it
Your
someone
staff,
else?
your
What
staff,
staff?
yes.
Community Economic Development?
Yeah.
Yes,
So that'd be-
yes.
okay.
Yes,
And I went on, actually, I went on, not that I had any say, but I did go on several of those
Yeah.
with them. He has. I
He
think.
has, yeah.
But typically, I don't. Typically, it's the economic development staff that goes with them. The director or? Tara usually goes on those.
Yeah,
With Michelle,
yes.
yeah. I went with Michelle and Tara, Michelle Lewis that
Yes.
works with them, so that's where I went with the three of us.
Nice.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, just, yes.
For example, the two that I went with were, and I don't know if you're supposed to tell who is with. No, I don't know if you can, but I went with the two, Royal Neighbors and McManus, I want to say McManus.
Andis, yeah.
Right off the Arsenal, the government bridge there, Sam Cooperson there. And so those are the two that I went on, give you an example.
It's always good to hear that, there's certain businesses, when you hear the names that they're interested in Rock, it's just
Yeah.
Yes.
gives us a boost rather than this like, well, we've had several meetings.
Yeah, it
Yes.
does, but sometimes they like to keep those things confidential because of the information they feed back, but.
And the information that you have, it's really in the aggregate. We always say we're not going to share your stuff specifically, but it's in the aggregate, like workforce issues. But having the city staff there is so important because that's the relationship you're building with that company. And then also, a lot of times, they might have like, we have a pothole, or something that's easily fixed. They're happy, the city staff goes back and takes care of it.
Yeah.
So it's, some of it's kind of easy.
Nice. Two more questions. Sorry, I asked
Sure.
a lot. With site visits, how many, I don't remember the number that you threw up there. Do you know off the top of your head how many were in Rock Island? I know that we've struggled with site visits in the past just because of our, what's the word? What we currently have, right? Our inventory.
Your inventory,
Right?
yes.
I mean, is it safe to say that, relatively speaking, that was low in Rock Island versus the whole region?
I don't know the breakdown, honestly.
No problem.
But I do believe inventory is an issue, and
Yeah.
I think that's why, you won the planning
Yeah.
grant to help, honestly, so we can further develop inventory in Rock Island.
Yeah, I know we have our issues with landlockness and aging community and all that good stuff.
You gotta remember, land associated with the 5 industries that they work on.
Right.
Because there's
Yes.
a difference between that and retail.
Oh, yeah.
land-
Right, that's
Land
right.
inventory.
That's
So
right,
just
Mayor.
remind people that sometimes
Yes.
I forget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, last question. So you ask our local employers questions, what are you having difficulty with or whatever. Workforce, obviously a big deal. Skilled labor, a big deal. What does QC First do with that information? Do they share that with the chamber or with us to say, hey, you should do programs to help facilitate getting more skilled labor? Does QC First themselves create programs to try to facilitate those needs? What do we do with that data?
Well, the data, it's called Synchronous. It's a national program. And so like Illinois, it's called CORE. We send it into them, and
Yeah, I know
it's all
CORE.
this database and, and all of that. But we can pull anything from that database. And so we see, like in the case of workforce, we know it's a huge issue.
Yeah.
So what do we get? It helps us develop our programs. Like, you know what? We need to get a group together. We need to start talking about talent in manufacturing, those kinds of things. So we're able to pull information and do some of those things. We've had in the past, forums, or like, I'm trying to think in Rock Island, we had I can't remember specifically, but south, in the industrial park area, there were some issues, and so we're hearing a lot of that, so we had a meeting, with the city staff and some of those businesses down there to try to resolve whatever those issues might be. So it absolutely is a driver. It's more than just data for us.
Yeah.
It's a driver of programming, really.
And QC First, in part, does some of that,
Yes.
too?
Yeah, I mean, we're not really probably the deliverer of programs.
Right.
Because that's probably, but we'll bring in, like, community colleges. We need some training. There's specifically, we'll bring in the people who can talk about those different things. And we're probably more facilitators than
Sure.
subject matter experts in some of those areas. Yeah.
Good.
Can you talk a little bit about the meeting last week on workforce development?
Sure. Actually, and I'm going to kill his name here, David Ottavanelli. He's with John Deere, and he works specifically with some of the high schools on apprenticeship programs, and they have a pretty exhaustive, like, these are the skills that we need for welding, these are the things we need for CNC, and they've had this pilot project this year, and really looking at 8th grade, and then 10th grade, and how do we get these kids excited about manufacturing? And so we had a Quad City First sponsored a meeting with superintendents and and economic development and businesses to hear about this program. It's not just Deere driven, it can be a lot of different companies. And then how might we replicate this really cool program in other schools, and then also how do we get businesses excited. So it was really our job in that instance was to bring them all together, start this discussion, and then what's next? How can we pair people up and those types of things. So it was a very interesting meeting, and it won't just stop there. It's kind of just the start.
Yeah, certainly. Well, it sounds fantastic. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Is there any question?
I
Yes.
just have one question. On your performance successful projects page, listing 12 successful projects,
Yes.
9 in Iowa, 3 in Illinois, and you said the 3 in Illinois were in Rock Island?
Yes.
And do you work with the other Illinois municipalities in the Quad Cities, like
Yes.
Moline and
Yes.
East Moline and Silvis?
Correct.
Is there anything that you can attribute to Rock Island having the 3 successful projects?
Well, 2 of them moved from other communities. And, I mean, we can talk about that now because they are successful. And I want you to understand too, this does not mean that this was our job. We worked the whole project. It was really in partnership with the city staff and others. And so McLaughlin, it was one of the successful projects, as you understand. They moved from East Moline facility, to that wonderful facility in Rock Island. Belota came from Milan, and they really outgrew their current facility. And Belota, interestingly enough, it was a business attraction project from 2009, and so then they went to Milan, they grew, and then they're still growing, and so they came to Rock Island. And then the other one is Serco, it's an acronym, and they're actually on the island. They're a contractor on the island. So in those two examples of those existing companies moving to Rock Island, there was a very specific process that was followed in communication as it relates to that no poaching rule, and there was good conversations between Rock Island and Milan and East Moline. Basically what happens is that if a company they need to grow, and if the town that they're at cannot help them grow, then there's some communication on what can we do to keep them in the Quad Cities so they don't go somewhere else? So it's just kind of a process that we follow.
Thank you for that explanation.
You're very welcome.
I want to mention two things, I guess, with that to a certain degree is, 3 happen to be in Rock Island this year, and sometimes your constituents wonder about where the money goes, and so next year it could be 0.
Right.
And the year after that could be 0. And the Iowa gets them all, or Moline gets them all. And so it's kind of like, wait a minute, how come we don't get any attention, or we don't get it? Well, it just, once again, it's all a matter of sometimes just the right size building, the right
Right.
company, size property. There's a lot of factors that we can't, sometimes and I say we, the council, the past councils have had that look, and even our citizens have had that look. It's kind of like, how come we don't get it? And it's not fair. You got to look at a bigger picture. We got to make sure we look at that big picture with it. Along with that, that's why it's so important that we continue to work and strengthen our inventory. And I say our inventory, it doesn't have to be the city owns the inventory, by the way.
No.
By any means. It could be just under contract, knowing that the owner was wishing to sell that land or the building or whatever, knowing what sizes. But that's where it's very, very important for us to know what those are and be prepared. It is the city council's, I'll say, a responsibility to be forward-thinking and instead of saying, wait a minute, we need fiber optic over in this area. Don't know if it'll pay right now, but that seems to be the hot item that companies are looking for when they're doing their research. And so we need to make that investment whether it be that area. That's just an example. But, the hot item these days is 100,000 square foot warehouse, 30-foot tall ceilings, that sort of thing. So should we build a spec? Should we find somebody to build a spec? Should we have the plans for something to be able to have that inventory? So those are things that we need. If we talk about vision and forward thinking, we as a city council up here need to make sure we stay in touch with these things and sometimes have to reach out there investment-wise. And I know budgets are tight and everything else, and so that's where it's tough. But planning for that. Otherwise, the other cities, if they do it, they will win out on those deals, and/or the Quad City loses altogether because the inventory is not there. So that, I guess I just caution the city council and that type of deal, and planning in the future is that makes it very important.
If I could just add to your comment about the big picture, in addition to gaining 3 new businesses, we've also lost some as well, for the same reason, I think, because they were looking for opportunities
Yes.
to expand, and we couldn't
The
meet their
Coca-Cola
needs.
building.
And they might have gone to Iowa.
Correct.
Right.
There's state laws that regulate some of these things, so there's a lot and lots of factors that we have to put faith in Quad City first, and of course, our staff members working with that. We just got to keep working with those because some are beyond our control.
Right.
Bituminous, type deal was that way, but, so there's a number of them. So I don't want to belabor it, but we just got to keep those things in mind.
That's right.
And I just want to thank you for this update and also for being available to me to
Absolutely.
answer those questions when I met with you to kind of get a scope of what was going on.
But absolutely.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, Dari, Renaissance Rock Island, Economic Growth, whatever, whatever title you. Oh, AJ, you're just gonna sit there and let them do the work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for having us today. My name is Beth Payne, and I'm the Administration Director for the Development Association of Rock Island. That's who we're here as the organization here to represent, to give you an update. I have with me Cindy Berg, our CFO, Eric Reeder, our program support, also our board chair, AJ Loss from Bush Construction, and then also we have Eric Hansen, who's here as our downtown ambassador. So just wanted to kind of let you know we're going to tag team this presentation, and just want to thank you again for your time today. First, I kind of want to provide a little history and some of our organizational milestones. It's been some time since we've been in front of the City Council, so I wanted to kind of give you a little brief history of our organization, a little bit about how our mission is, and how we've evolved as an organization. So our 501c6 member-based organization, a very high-arching mission is to serve as a catalyst to stimulate community and economic development.
We started off with 13 original members. Now we're over 70, and of which 30% represent Iowa-based businesses. Again, just want to point out AJ is the president and CEO of Bush Construction. He's been a member of DARI since 2010, and he's helped us a lot of different Rock Island-based developments, as well as supporting us as an organization. So that just, again, shows the strength in our member base. We started off back before I was born. I'll just go ahead and acknowledge that. In the 1970s as the Downtown Development Council, really just to establish like development on the east side of Rock Island. You'll notice on the top right corner, we found in our archives, a marketing piece about, that was really stimulated to kind of bring them all downtown Rock Island. So the plaza, all of those things kind of happened because of that historical piece of marketing materials. So, although I am proud to say back then it says we'll send the men, not more paper, I think that it's evidence today through the Quad Cities First that we're kind of leading the way here as females. Want to let you know, this is kind of in 1986, it was reformulated to be DARI, and so kind of our longer mission is to promote commercial, industrial, recreational development through ownership, management of businesses and properties, and by providing business assistance to enhance the tax base and quality of life of Rock Island, which is a really long-winded way of saying that we kind of do a little bit of everything. We're a nonprofit established to increase the tax base, so we pay our property taxes. We really work with partners to increase the tax base and really kind of stimulate that economic development. Since the 1980s, we actually have had shared positions, as Mr. Tones can contest to this. DARI and Growth have always been kind of a shared organization, sharing an executive director since the 1980s. And since 2012, that has changed slightly, which we'll talk to you about. And then in the 1989, we entered into a 5-year agreement with the city to raise an annual of $125,000 for capital contributions. The First National Bank letterhead right there is from our then president, Chuz Wilson, who basically committed to the fact that DARI did raise the capital campaigns to match funds with the city to really kind of redevelop the streets and get the streetlights on downtown. So since the 1980s, DARI really has been involved in the downtown. Then in the 1990s, Riverboat Gaming came, and then DARI decided to kind of spin off another organization solely focused on downtown Rock Island, known as the Downtown Rock Island Arts and Entertainment District, which is the DBA for technically the District Inc. Am I talking really fast? Probably. Wanted to let you know then, we just really started talking about the overall redevelopment, and that growth was then decided as a 501c3 to solely focus on housing redevelopment in Rock Island, which we still continue to do. And then in 2003, when the city of Rock Island was declared as a live-work community, we were able to create what is known as the Live-Work Rock Island program in partnership with Growth, and that has been a very successful program in increasing residential base in Rock Island. 2009, I bring up the fact that Central States Development Partners was formulated. That is on the Growth arm, our community development entity, but that was also, again, a shared partnership between Growth and DARI and the city, talking about how can we stimulate additional resources into those highly distressed areas in Rock Island. So we really identified the fact that the community development entity would really kind of stimulate that, which has definitely resonated in some of the recent activities, such as McLaughlin. The Downtown Strategic Plan, we really kind of started to get involved in some of the downtown planning. At that time, working with the city, we identified that the downtown kind of needed a little bit more regional focus. So we actually went down to a similar sized community in Florida known as West Palm Beach. Brian always says not Palm Beach, but the West Palm Beach area, which is very similar to our downtown. Right, oh, perfect. We really kind of took some time to study how their downtown was and how they kind of worked in a public-private partnership to create a safe environment as well as increase economic vitality. And from that visit, we actually created the downtown police force. We really kind of established the curfew, working with the city. So again, that was a heavily DARI recognized activity. And then at that time, we worked with the city to identify to increase retail needs in the downtown. So we partnered again with the city of Rock Island. All of these activities are through the partnership with the city. So we redeveloped the retail incubator, known as Shops on Second, which has been highly successful in creating startup businesses from the home base areas into a storefront at an affordable rent price and a rent release. It used to be 6 retail shops, now it's down to 4, and all of that is because of the need of the increased size of the square footage. And also working with the city on 11th Street efforts back with Missman and all those things back in 2015 too. Then we kind of started working with the city on areas that we knew that we needed to do. So like the BWellQC incubator was really just to kind of tag along on the wellness And since then, we continue to incubate wellness-based businesses. So we have currently about 4 retailers that are inside that incubator that provide wellness activities. And then in 2014, we really kind of want to capitalize on our strengths of really kind of getting together with someone who's very valued in the business and knows a lot of that. So Jeff Guthrie kind of started off as our business development advisor. And so that was him just hanging up what we used to know as the What's Up Downtown marketing initiative. So he sat down, met with businesses, really kind of met with them on their needs. We developed programs based on those meetings, and then from there we kind of spun off some new positions. 2015, you kind of see a lot of activity here. I'm not going to touch on a lot of that, but on the top right corner, that is now what you know as El Patron. Dari took ownership of 2 buildings of Star Block. When you look at the buildings, they actually look like one, but I think there's 4 total. So 1825 to 1827 Second Avenue, Dari owns and is land banking the future upper stories for future development, but the main focus was really to take the commercial side and really kind of stimulate some activity there. So we made investments. As you see, we took it down to the guts and really just made it into what you now see as El Patron, which is a successful business in downtown. The Downtown magazine kind of started with my family. They all were born and raised on 30th Street. You drive that entire road, you see all the Bolting houses. And one of my family members didn't know about comedy sports in downtown. So I'm like, well, I'm going to change that. So we kind of created the Downtown magazine as a pilot program to kind of talk about some good things going on in the downtown, in hopes of making it a larger presence, which Eric will touch on later in the presentation. And then, again, really kind of like taking some time to make the arts alleys. We know that we're growing the downtown with our residential base. We know that people are walking the alleys. How can we really kind of start an art-inspired community, really work on the arts alleys areas, and, again, working closely with the city through the downtown strategic plan. Bringing it to the future right now, we became a member of the Bridge Investment Community Development Corporation in 2015, and that was a strategy that has been very successful. Cindy Berg will talk about the microloans that we started through our pilot program with Rock Island-based businesses that has helped support about 36 jobs. There's 8 microloans that help leverage almost $500,000, and that all happened within a 3-month period. So again, very successful program. Then in 2017, we kind of knew, like, between the District of Rock Island and Dari, we were kind of doing, again, some of the duplication of efforts, so we kind of created this merged initiative called Downtown Rock Island. And the Downtown Rock Island Partnership was really just kind of a joint partnership between the 2 organizations working with the city. And at that time, we really kind of entered into our formalized 3-year agreement. So the city has supported Dari for many, many years since our inception. And this year, or in 2017, we kind of formalized that 3-year agreement to kind of say, like, what does this look like as we kind of move forward and what we're trying to do here. Working with Eric Reeder, that's when he came on board. We decided Renaissance Rock Island really was the umbrella name for 3 interconnected organizations working for Rock Island. And at that time, it made sense for us to call ourselves Renaissance Rock Island because it's very confusing for people to understand, like, who are we representing, when and where. So we decided at that point, like, the Development Association of Rock Island really needs its own name, and we really need to kind of market and communicate all the efforts that Dari is truly doing to benefit Rock Island, and working with various partnerships. We work very well with the Quad Cities Chamber, with Quad Cities First. Through our very complex setup, it is actually a very big benefit for Rock Island. So we decided to kind of work on rebranding Dari and moving our tagline into moving Rock Island forward. And so from there, we kind of created our new website, our new Facebook page, our marketing efforts. So that kind of like sprung us to where we are today. So with that, we also did a lot of history with land banking efforts for strategic development. A lot of times, Dari, working with the city, would be identified as the organization that would take on a building, own it, hold it until there was a redevelopment plan that was in place, and that worked very well for us. So as you see, Renaissance Rock Island, Dari actually owned that property since 1993. It got redeveloped as one of the Quad Cities' first mixed-use developments in 2000. So, and Dari also made a huge capital investment. It donated the building, Renaissance Lofts, donated the building, which actually accessed more tax credits to make the $6.1 million development, 52 loft-style housing developments done in the early 2000s. McKesson Lofts, also the same thing. We land banked that property, then $6.6 million later, there's 22 units of owner-occupied housing, developed in 2008. And then Dari also owned the first floor of the commercial, which I'll talk about later. The Rock Island Police Station, that was actually one of those properties that Dari, in the middle of all of that, actually kind of played a big role in that with Lucky Cab moving in there. It was originally identified as, for one of our projects, as veterans housing, and then working with the city and, again, identifying the need for a new police station, we kind of helped facilitate that land development. And then also Dunkin Donuts. I'm not sure if everyone remembers on the bottom left corner of that sole little house that used to live on 18th Avenue. We own that property, and then in 2016, the city identified the fact that Dunkin Donuts was coming in, and now we have a place to get coffee in the morning. Again, purchased the first floor of McKesson Loss, which is another thing, again, that Dari had identified. We manage and own the first floor that also has commercial space, and we're part of the homeowners association there. So we're very involved in making sure that is a prized development still to this day. And then also identified working and owning 220 19th Street, which is now known as the Center for Living Arts, over $500,000 worth of investment that I can't tell you all the stories, but Brian Hollenbach will tell you that the historic properties, we put a new roof on it, and now with Comedy Sports exiting, within 2 days, we had a new tenant. So we're very, very proud of that as well. We also, working with the city, identified buying and owning the former Kai's property at 1722nd Avenue. When we acquired the property, we put a new roof on it, we put some new mechanicals, made some major investments that it made it easy to sell to a new property owner in 2017. And then again, identified the Star Block area as well. So just some organizational updates. The Dari Executive Board members, we are ran by the board. So we have AJ Loss, who's here with us today, Troy Green, Bill Rank, Eric Langen, and Frank Nowinski as our executive board. The monthly board meetings that we have in various locations in Rock Island actually is our full entire board. The executive board meets monthly. You're at the head of the Dari board meetings, and the Dari board meetings is where we give the program updates and all the activities that we're doing. So just want to kind of give you an idea of who they are today. And then also our consolidation. So as you recall in our history and milestones, we created the District Inc. And again, now looking at how, again, we are duplicating efforts, the decision was made to merge the district and then formally dissolve the district at the beginning of this year. So we actually have one organization fully focused on redevelopment activities citywide, not just downtown, and that's just kind of where we're at with that. A lot of that happened, the debt incurred by the district. The district used to be the host for the signature festivals of Gumbo Yaya and You Make My Weekend. And after a series of many years of rain happening and Mother Nature not working in our favor, kind of put the district in an unfavorable position. So we're very proud of the fact that with the Dari board support in the city that we're able to pay off the debt in less than 6 months of dissolving the organization. So again, our rebrand, just our kind of our focal points, our website's rockisland4.com, focusing on workforce, commercial industrial growth, housing, neighborhoods, downtown. Again, we're here to partner. We're not here to cooperate. You know, we're here not to compete. There's plenty of activity to do. We're really solely focused on how we can make a direct impact in our Rock Island community in a variety of sectors. Our website, therockisland4.com. And then our new website, our new Facebook page, which again is really kind of showcasing and just now starting to get some legs underneath it. So from here, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Cindy Berg.
Like Beth said, I'm the CFO for the organization, so that means I get to talk numbers. You all should have in your packet a sheet that looks like this. This was basically a summary that I provided to city staff because there was a question asked of basically of that funding agreement that was entered into in 2017, which that was a 3-year agreement for the calendar years 17, 18, and 19. How was the city's monies utilized? And my initial answer was, well, they were thrown in the pot with everything else and used to grow Rock Island. Because really the funding agreement was generally to support our mission, which Beth already stated. But as I looked at trying to break out, well, what was really the city's money used for, this is kind of the summary I came up with of if we had not had those monies, what would we have cut or reduced or whatever the case may be. And that's where the first section there, the City of Rock Island funding, we were receiving $135,000 a year from the city for Dari and $28,500 that was designated for the district, but generally events and related items. So what you see across the top there is generally kind of how those monies were spent, or have been spent to date, since we aren't through the end of 2019 yet. But what we do is leverage those dollars with quite a bit of additional dollars. So yes, the city did contribute $163,500 a year, but we also leveraged other funding to the tune of over $740,000 in 2017, $750,000 in 2018, and over $443,000 so far in 2019. And you see the breakout of those as well on that sheet. So while the city monies did support things like the Live Work Rock Island program that Beth mentioned, that supports home buyers buying within Rock Island, it also supports the Clean and Safe program, which Eric's going to talk more about, and supports the events, which I mentioned, and also some minor things like repairs to the canopy down on the plaza. Other funding supports the programs that you hear us talk about, such as the Rock Start grants, the Seed Rock Island placemaking, which Eric's going to talk more about, and the magazine and social media videos that you've probably hopefully seen. In addition, as Beth mentioned, Dari is a member of Bridge Investment Community Development Corporation, the local CDFI, or Community Development Financial Institution. And because of that relationship, there's been several loans to businesses within Rock Island, which you see kind of towards the bottom of that sheet above the yellow. It says loans to Rock Island businesses through Bridge. So you see that there's been several investments in those areas too, small business loans and microloans to support entrepreneurs in Rock Island. So overall, if I look at the 3-year investment in Rock Island, Dari has leveraged the $163,500 a year to support almost more than $2.3 million of investment in Rock Island over that 3-year period. And I'll let Eric talk a little bit more about the programs themselves.
Thank you. Let's see. Well, I think what most people are looking to find out is, with this type of funding, what are the hours, dollars, outputs, and outcomes? So to kind of put all that together and summarize, there's about $220,000 that goes out for a variety of different things. So if you think of Dari, think business development, real estate development, economic development, and marketing. So one of the things that we've noticed and heard a lot over the years was a charge for a cleaner downtown. So the Clean and Safe program was born from that. There's always a need from small business owners for interior, exterior, branding, signage, different improvements there. A lot of creative things, as Beth had mentioned, about the arts-inspired community, people wanting to take that into their own hands, whether it be murals on their buildings or fun, unique, creative things that they do. And then also embracing the local business owners to help them put on their own promotional events and things that'll bring visitors into town. The Seed Rock Island's a 3-pronged effort, from a startup grant to incubation all the way to the micro-lending piece that Cindy had mentioned. And then the community marketing, which has taken the Downtown magazine and merged that with the citywide effort, which is the Rock Island Forward video series, and then kind of the flagship program, which is the Live Work Rock Island program. Beth will talk more about that. Since I don't speak as fast as she does, I put together just a couple quick hitter number-wise. You should have your Dari monthly dashboard. This is our kind of where we're at here today, of where money has gone to different businesses, how many visits that we've made through our business planning, resource awareness, site selection, and referral opportunities there, how many people are in our incubators, some of the Live Work numbers, as well as some of the available real estate that Dari and Growth have ownership in. As I mentioned about the business assistance, just like city staff, Quad Cities First, the Chamber, we get several calls throughout the year, so this is kind of a breakdown of how that happens. And yes, I do track all this behind the scenes of all the people who might call with a one-off question or send that weird email in the middle of the night that it qualifies as one of these things. So these are all viable opportunities to either help fund or refer to another partner in the community. So just a glance at that. Just some brief updates on some of the programs. Embassy Square is receiving a storefront improvement grant. Sweet Tooth Snacks, which is a new business, which if you were at our last Dari meeting, you heard a kind of a great story of their coming up into Rock Island. Our DIY RI, creative placemaking. Sometimes I make too fancy of names that I can't spit out too fast. The creative placemaking grants, Skeleton Key is going to be taking advantage of one of those, as well as the Storefront program grant. So look for a lot of improvements and some fun stuff at Skeleton Key. Igor's Bistro is going to be having a fun Halloween event. It's a Halloween-themed restaurant, as you know, so of course they're going to do their event on November 2nd. So, but fun events nonetheless that our small businesses throughout town are putting on. As I mentioned about the Seed Rock Island program, here's Alley Shoppers outside of the shops on 2nd. They're one of our incubator programs there on the retail side. We've almost hit our goal there from the applications received on the startup grants. One thing that I like to play with in open space is a pop-up shop. So we've been able to help Sugar, Style, and Sage pop up in the former downtown Rock Island office there. And she'll be getting up and running here relatively soon. So here during the small business thriving seasons, please stop down and say hi to Janice Smith. There's your plug, Janice. The Clean and Safe program, as I mentioned, this was kind of a new thing to try out this year, submitting an RFP to see if there'd be an interested contractor to help out and assist with maintenance and cleaning of downtown. Public Works does a lot of the bigger things, such as there was a down light over the weekend. The Parks does a great job with the flower beds and hanging baskets, but as you've probably seen, there's still a high volume of waste that appears. So Quality Construction Services helps us out. It's about 750 hours in total. Since this was put together a couple weeks ago, that number's gone up. So you know there is a lot of garbage pickup, spot treatments, and different things happening throughout the month. As I think Beth had mentioned there, some of the transition with events, we've partnered and transitioned our signature festivals, the Gumbo Yaya, You Make My Weekend, with Kyle Peters, the owner of Daiquiri Factory. He's seen some event enhancements that he tried out this year. Attendance has grown, so positive feedback on all that. One of the annual events that Dari puts on is the Divots for Dari. This was the 5th annual golf outing this year. The proceeds benefit different Rock Island initiatives. As you can see, a couple of the past recipients. This one, what I think in total, $69.80 total generated from the golf outing, donated to Francis Willard Elementary School for some new playground equipment. So some cool impact that way. As we talked a little bit about the marketing side of things, we always want to show off all the unique assets that Rock Island has to offer. So we partnered with D-Films, a longtime friend of ours, and one of the unique things that they brought to the table was putting out a contest to see who could host a series that we'd post out on Facebook and social media. And it actually ended up being the Girls of Brick and Mortar boutique that had won that, and they did a great job. If you've had a chance to watch any of the 4 episodes there, 4 more plus a little bit of extras to come, please share those, like those with all your friends. We want to get the word out of all the great things. By no means is this a comprehensive approach. We can't cover every restaurant in 8 minutes, but we hope to be doing some of those, and season 2's in consideration there. And then last but not least, Dari served as a fiscal agent with the NPC 11 group, also helping out with the DIY creative placemaking grant, and helped participate in one of their cleanup days. So with that, I'll kick it over to Beth, and she'll talk really fast.
I'm going to keep it interesting. So again, I mentioned before in our history and milestones in 2003, the City of Rock Island, Growth, and Dari came together and declared Rock Island as a live-work community. And that really kind of it kicked off what is now known as national model, known as Live Work Rock Island. And it really is a unique program that capitalizes upon the state donation tax credits that the state of Illinois has, that is administered through the Illinois Housing Development Authority. So through your support, we're able to kind of leverage that and create a unique grant program that provides down payment and closing cost assistance to Dari member employees to purchase anywhere as long as it has a 61201 zip code. So in 2019, this Live Work Rock Island has helped 14 home buyers. The average assistance is $4,400. Depending on the house that they buy, that can go up to $6,000. It always kind of fluctuates depending on our number of home buyers. And over $62,000 provided in down payment and closing cost assistance to date. I mentioned here that we have all are encouraged to apply because we started a pilot program this year to help move and stimulate some activity in the real estate market with houses above 150. So any of our DARI members that have anyone who's interested in purchasing a home in Rock Island, we encourage them to apply because we have a pilot program for a $5,000 non-income restricted grant to purchase a home in Rock Island. Since 2003, we've had 353 DARI member employees that have closed using the Live Work Rock Island program, provided over $1.8 million in down payment assistance, and helped stimulate over $34.5 million in real estate transactions in Rock Island. The home buyer goes through our home buyer program. It's a required component of that because we want to make sure when people go through this program that they are actually educated home buyers. They understand the responsibilities of being a homeowner. We want to make sure that they understand that they would need to be a good neighbor, make sure to mow the grass and get the grass clippings off the street, all those different types of things that come into it, long-standing maintenance, all those components are part of our home buyer education. So again, just wanted to demonstrate that. Wanted to also put some faces to the program. Recent closings, the Rock Island Arsenal, one of their employees closed through the Live Work Rock Island program. He actually bought one of the Clipper condominiums downtown. He's super excited about the program, wants to ride his bicycle to work. I'm excited for him through that. The Rock Island School District, again, one of our top participants, $4,300 in down payment assistance. We really feel like with the new fluctuation of employees through the school district, that this is a phenomenal program to give to those new educators that are coming through the Rock Island schools. Some upcoming closings, we have Friendship Manor, and we also have Unity Point Trinity. And before I head over there, some of the top participants that go through the Live Work Rock Island program are the City of Rock Island, the Rock Island Arsenal, John Deere, Rock Island School District, and a few others. So on top of that, we actually have more DARI members thanks to Eric and James Jones going through our member relations meetings, getting some more home buyers to go through the programs. We offer lunch and learn so people can learn about the programs that we have available and our business assistants as well. So it's a really phenomenal program, and I'm proud to say that we were just awarded Phase 10, which we'll be doing a news conference here shortly when things kind of start slowing down, where we had over $326,000. Thanks to the support of the city as well as our DARI members and our capital campaign contributors, we were able to kind of pool those in increments of $10,000, bring it to the Illinois Housing Development Authority, and they were nothing but very complimentary of the program. And so I just want to say that's something to be very, very, very proud of. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Cindy Bird to talk about a new event that we have coming up here shortly.
All right. Lastly, as part of Brian and I attending several different national conferences in our roles with Rock Island Economic Growth, both as it relates to new market tax credits and opportunity zones, we've established relationships that we wanted to bring back to this community. And you should have in your pamphlet a flyer here for this development forum we are calling Pitch Connect Fund, which is kind of like a Shark Tank version of a development forum. Basically, we're bringing some top other community development entities besides just Central States Development Partners, which is local here. We're also bringing the Business Value Advisor Fund, U.S. Banks, CDE, and CIBC Bank's program known as MRF for the Industrial Revolving Loan Fund. To the table, along with Opportunity Zone investors with Bracket Partners, Historic Tax Credit investors with U.S. Bank, and the National Trust Community Investment Corporation, along with RCDFI Bridge Investments. And this event is being sponsored by DARI, along with Central States and Bridge, and bringing it to the Holiday Inn in Rock Island. So if you know of anyone that's got a deal, we're really anywhere in the Quad Cities, but obviously we're hoping that we have several Rock Island projects. Make sure that they are sending their information in to register. There's also a spot to send in the basics of your deal so that we can match a development team up with the proper funder. So if you're looking for an ozone investor, we can match you with that person. That's really the point of having that information. So make sure to share that with anyone you know. We hope to have a great turnout. We've got quite a bit of interest so far, and this is a great opportunity to access some national entities that can really make a significant investment. With that, I will open it up for any questions.
Question? Thoughts? Once again, that live, work, and day deal, it really is a great tool. I know that my former employer took advantage of it too. But a key thing there is you got to be that your employer has to be a member of DARI. So it's a good way to get them to, for what a membership costs, it really is a huge benefit to their employees. It's a great way of selling it.
I don't have a question, but I wanted to say how enjoyable and informative the monthly DARI board meetings are. I really learn a lot about what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate everything DARI does. I know for the past 2 or so years that I've been on council, I've worked very closely with Eric and the rest of the team, and so I really appreciate everything that you do for the city of Rock Island, and I look forward to growing our partnership in the coming years. Keep this train a-rolling.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. We have 14 minutes.
Doesn't usually work out that way.
No. What's that?